Can I tell you guys something nice?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that I co-edited this anthology called Attached to the Living World, a new eco-poetry anthology. So it is one of three finalists for the Independent Book Publishers Association Award in Poetry this year.
Oh,
Very nice.
very
There is one gold medal and two silver medals, so at least it'll get a silver medal. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to Portland on May 13th, and our son Caleb is going to be my plus one at the ceremonial dinner. It's pretty exciting.
Oregon or Maine?
Oh, Oregon.
Oregon.
Oregon. Yeah, yeah.
nice.
So I'm pretty psyched about that. And I'll tell you another cool thing, which I'm sort of too shy to mostly tell people. So I have my next manuscript accepted for a new and selected poems, which is what you do when you get old. You do your new and selected poems, and then you try to bring out a few more books after that. So that'll be out by probably the end of 2026.
Awesome.
What does that mean? And that's what you do when you get old. I didn't quite
You know
follow.
what a new and selected poems is, don't you? Selected poems is like you go back through all the books that you have published and you choose the best poems from them. And then you add some poems that you've written since you published your last book. And that's a new and selected poems. So it's a kind of retrospective of your publishing life.
And your collective poems are posthumous, right?
Your collected poems is if you're
Usually.
famous enough for somebody to want to hear everything. But your
Tony,
selected
Tony,
poems
it's
is
it's
like,
like it's like a best of album,
yeah,
Yeah.
record album.
There are good poets who have published collected poems while they were alive, like
Oh,
Robinson did, Yeats did, I think, though the
yeah.
final collected poems is after he died.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then there are people like William Coast Williams who have selected poems plus collected poems, you know, plus other stuff that was like he wrote too much to get into even the collected poems, you know. So whatever. But anyway, I'm excited about that. Yeah. So anyway,
Yep.
those are my
Doug,
pieces.
maybe mute yourself.
Okay,
Okay.
so let's look at Lucille. Are we recording, Tony? We are recording?
Neil's nodding.
Okay.
You're muted.
Hi, nods are not recognized in the record, so yes, we are being recorded.
Good. There's Lucille. Okay, we're going to scroll way down. We talked about these last time. We talked about that. Okay, let's skip this one. It's nice, but you can see she starts using more kind of like dialect. Okay, oh, antic God. This is really a touching poem. Oh, antic God, return to me, my mother in her 30s, leaned across the front porch, the huge billow of her breast pressing against the rail, summoning me in for bed. I am almost the dead woman's age times two. I can barely recall her song, the scent of her hands, though her wild hair scratches my dreams at night. Return to me, O Lord of then and now, my mother's calling, her young voice humming my name. I just wanted to include that. That's a perfectly self-evident poem. You know, there's like nothing to interpret, but to me, it's such a moving poem, this love for her mother that existed and the grief at her mother's so early death. You know, I told you that her mom died at age 44 of diabetes, and that's young. And people who die that young usually have not had the best health care, you know? Like there's an awful lot of diabetes among African American people in Mississippi. Just so much. You'll see billboards, you know, about amputation and so on. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's such a moving poem. I am almost the dead woman's age times two, which means that she's been holding on to this memory for decades and decades, you know.
It means she's almost 74, which was the age at which she died.
I had a question about the word antique.
Yeah.
Antique. Yeah, so Tell me I mean, the definitions I know for that word are puzzling me for this poem.
Yeah, I know. I think to me, it's sort of like trickster God. You know,
Yeah.
you played a trick on me, you know?
Well, also you're antic, you're whimsical, you might do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
And you
which
might
relates to the
restore my
idea of
mother.
trickster. Yeah. Oh, well, that's true. Yeah. What
And
did you think, Leslie?
no, I even looked it up to see if there was some definition I didn't know.
Mm.
It just, it seemed like a unusual choice. The line I love is her wild hair scratches my dreams at night.
Yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
I
think
was
that,
struck. I was struck by the word antic too, and I wondered if what we know about her religious beliefs. What kind? How is religion figures in her work and in her life?
she writes more about religion later in her poetic life. We'll come to the God and Lucifer poems in a little bit, you know. Her husband, of course, was a practitioner of Zen and a philosopher. I mean, I think that Lucille, I don't know how devout she was. She was religious and she was interested in questions of religion and the nature of God and so on, you know. But I think, yeah, to me, antic God, both what Peter says, like if he's got all power, he could return to me, my mother in her 30s. But also, it's like, to me, antic sounds like, you know, playing tricks or just fooling around.
Yeah.
What is it that would make you take my mother away? You know, probably both those things. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
Well, I did too. I think in line with what everybody else has said, but it hardly seems playful that her mother was taken away from her at a very young age. That's if God is being playful, that seems like a an odd way to play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a cruel
Yeah,
jest.
It's like,
I don't know
but
if that it's playful. It's more like well, God is just fooling around and he doesn't think we're really that important. And hey, this is something that really is important to me. I want you to know that.
yeah, it seems like buffoonery, and
Yeah.
that's makes it more of a insult that she was taken so young.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Sure.
maybe she's uh, criticizing God. So you know, you're
Oh
just
yeah.
playing around with us.
Oh yeah, sure. Like
Well,
flies
in the
that
book of
want to
Job, God
away.
makes a bet with
Yep.
Satan,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Also,
Like,
she's saying, turn to me, do this, not
yeah,
please, or could you please, or anything. It's just, um, yeah,
sure.
sounds like he's
Sure.
challenging a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I think
Absolutely.
she's essentially praying in a strange way, and she's not saying, "Oh, compassionate God, be compassionate," or "Oh, just God, be just." She's saying, "Oh, antic God, maybe it would appeal to you to do this thing, and it would be so easy for you." Something like that.
Yeah. So that's the word in this poem, you know, it's like such an accessible poem. And then you can spend a long time looking at that one word. It reminds me of the line from Lear, like flies to wanton boys are we to the gods, they kill us for their sport,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Scrolling down. Ha ha ha. Okay. Ooh, yeah. Wishes for sons. Okay, the women with us today will appreciate this one. I wish them cramps. I wish them a strange town and the last tampon. I wish them no 7-Eleven. I wish them 1 week early and wearing a white skirt. I wish them 1 week late. Later, I wish them hot flashes and clots like you wouldn't believe. Let the flashes come when they meet someone special. Let the clots come when they want to. Let them think they have accepted arrogance in the universe. Then bring them to gynecologists not unlike themselves. I love that poem. Oh my God. Pretty funny, huh?
Yeah, it's good.
This is what I mean. Tony, you said, what did I mean about uninhibited? This is a pretty uninhibited poem, you know? But I mean, I just love that because she loved her sons a lot, but bring them to gynecologists not unlike themselves.
You can tell she loves them even from this poem.
Yeah, I know. I know. Sons and daughters. Yep. Okay, so let's scroll on because these I've clustered several poems about specifically being female. And this is beautiful. This is a praise poem. Poem in praise of menstruation. If there is a river more beautiful than this, bright as the blood, red edge of the moon, if there is a river more faithful than this, returning each month to the same delta, if there is a river braver than this, coming and coming in a surge of passion, of pain, if there is a river more ancient than this, daughter of Eve, mother of Cain and of Abel, if there is in the universe such a river, if, scroll down, Tony, up. If there is in the universe such a river, if there is somewhere water more powerful than this wild water, pray that it flows also through animals, beautiful and faithful and ancient and female and brave. So, one thing we see in mid 20th century American poetry, and especially then coming forward, is women claiming women's experience and women claiming the right to talk about women's experience in poetry, also in film, in fiction, and so on. And Lucille Clifton is a really important figure in this regard. She claims all of her experience, physical, emotional, imaginative, historical. She claims all of it as, grist for her mill. So, I mean, I remember the first time Doris Lessing's novel, The Golden Notebook, is the first time that a woman ever gets her period in a novel, whereas that has been happening for quite some time, but it just was never part of what could be talked about or written about, and so like Doris Lessing and then other people coming later, Lucille Clifton is really claiming that. She's really claiming the importance of both, ruing, as in wishes for sons, you know, the less fun parts of it, but then also praising something that has not ordinarily been praised, and yet which is absolutely the source of every human life that ever existed, as well as every animal life, you know?
Just the footnote. There is a Guillaume Apollinaire pornographic novel called The Exploits of a Young Don Juan, in which a girl gets her first period. It's about almost 50 years older than The Golden Notebook. But it isn't a novel. I love Apollinaire's poems. This novel is not anything that special. It isn't a novel that would be widely read.
Yeah.
This, if I may hearken back to months ago, my talk about misogyny in Christianity, this is all a part of the teaching of St. Paul and Augustine and Aquinas that affected men and women, where sexuality was just not something that was okay to discuss. In the 50s, in TV shows, they couldn't use the word pregnant.
Yeah, I know.
And married couples had to sleep in separate beds. And this was part of Puritanism as well as misogyny. I think it was. It, I mean, I certainly don't have it all sorted out, but it wasn't just the repression of women. It was the Victorian censorship of anything to do with, well, like piano legs had to be covered.
I know.
If you remember.
I know.
So it seems revelatory when people in probably just our generation started to be open about everything and it probably is just as repressed in men as women. I don't think it's just misogyny.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's interesting to study D.H. Lawrence and James Joyce from that point of view. I both great novelists, but Ulysses was acceptable in the United States after Judge Woolsey's decision in 1933. Lady Chatterley's Lover, not until 1959. And I think in some ways, Lawrence's attitude towards sex and towards women's experience is more positive or more imaginative than Joyce's. But, he took much longer time uh, to be read, at least for Lady Chatterley's Lover, which is not his best novel. And then after Kate Millett's Sexual Politics, he started thinking below the surface again. Many readers read him, but in academic circles, he is tends to be thought of, I think, as much less valuable than he is.
So somebody had, yeah, Douglas.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's true that there was this kind of prohibition about sexuality, but it's also true that women were considered to be the agents of this terrible thing.
Yeah.
So it's been much more anti-woman than anything about men.
That's true. It goes back to the Bible, beware of the strange woman and, the whore of Babylon and that kind of thing.
Leslie?
Well, last night I was watching a movie about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her case, Moritz versus the Commissioner of Internal Revenue, which was about the sort of landmark case that she fought to get rid of all the gender inequality in the laws, which was really interesting. And they were talking about one of the pivotal lines was they were remembering what one of the law professors had said, something about if it rains one day, that doesn't mean that it's appropriate for your case, but if there's a climate change, it does. It's sort of what Meredith was talking recently on the Pomona listserv about an Overton window. Did you guys see that discussion? Okay, because I hadn't ever heard that term again. And what was so interesting to me was her worrying about, this was 1970. This is after we graduated from Pomona. It was so amazing to me that it was so late. I mean, in terms, and then I think back about some of the things that were legal then. And I say, that's right. I remember I couldn't get a credit card in my own, that kind of thing. So what I'm thinking about with this poem, what year do you think she wrote this?
Oh, good question. I don't know. The reason I don't know is that when I was taking things online, mostly they were citing as a source her collected poems.
Yeah, well, in any case, though, this was, I would think before 1970, maybe, and it was the thing preparing the climate change. I mean, it really was early because no, we didn't talk about these things, and it was sometimes very painful and very mortifying, and all these things, all these things are probably within the experience of most women. So I just thought it was sort of, in the light of watching that movie last night, I thought it was impressive that she did this early.
Yeah, it's a beautiful poem. I mean, I love it. I love praise poems, and this is an unusual kind of praise poem, Yeah. Did anybody have thoughts on the unusual lineation, the if there is in, if? Any thoughts on that? Because that's a really important part of how this poem works.
I have to say I'd like it better with more conventional lineation.
Not me. I love it this way.
Well, it's interesting because it's cumulative, It's like a lot of folk tales work this way. You add one more word, the next time. And it's cumulative so that you've got this river building to
Yeah.
the surge, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why
Yeah,
she.
that's nice. And I like the pause too, and the kind of brokenness that red edge of the moon, if there is a river, slows you down, makes you pay attention more. Yeah. Well, let's move on. I think her cluster of poems about being female is just so refreshing and so beautiful. To my last period. Well, girl, goodbye. After 38 years. 38 years, and you never arrived splendid in your red dress without trouble for me somewhere, somehow. Now it is done. And I feel just like the grandmothers who, after the hussy is gone, sit holding her photograph and sighing, wasn't she beautiful? Wasn't she beautiful? Oh my God. Another really unusual poem. Well, girl, goodbye. Yeah,
I find this poem very moving.
me
I
too.
like the poem in praise of menstruation, but I'm not moved by it in anything like the same way.
Yeah, this is really touching. It's really touching because, death is here. Nobody talked about menopause. I mean, menopause was even more of a hidden topic than having a period. And it's getting talked about now, but this is a menopause poem, right? And menopause is, of course, a big step on the way to a woman's death. And
Well,
yet, I mean, go ahead.
what do you women think about her saying after the hussy has gone?
I think it's really adorable.
Yeah, Hussey was an interesting choice there. I thought, wow, that was a twist, as we're going along. Now,
Yeah.
what did you think of that?
Well, she's in her red dress.
Yeah, shows up in her red dress, and
Yeah. You
she's
remember the Ray
connected
Charles
with
song?
sex. You know, she's
Yeah.
connected with sex
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
babies and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I felt a real sense of mourning and also like, oh, my productive period of my life is over.
Yeah.
You know, I knew who I was then. I was a mom. I was having babies and stuff like that. And after that, it's sort of like you get relegated to the back of the line or whatever.
The crone.
But the word hussy,
Oh, it's
she
Well,
could have
great.
picked, huh?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
great.
well,
I mean, you
tell
remember,
me why. Tell me why it's
okay.
great.
You
Explain it to me.
Remember the Ray Charles song, What I Say? Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
baby, put your red dress on.
Oh,
Gonna
yeah.
do the shimmy all night long, what I say. That one. I mean, periods are not polite. Often there's a surge of lustfulness connected with getting a period.
But hussy is judgmental, is it not?
No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's
Yeah, it is.
a thing.
It's a pejorative. I
It,
think
it
it's a
could be a
pejorative.
nice or affectionate word.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
basically it comes from the word housewife, shortened to hussif and then to hussy.
Oh,
She could have used much more derogatory
Oh yeah,
words.
she could have said strumpet or harlot or
Yeah, they would have
something.
spoiled the poem, but I think Hussy's wonderful.
She's just
Well,
strutting
well,
around in her red.
it
also
could have
a
also
hussy.
been less judgmental. It could have been,
But then
uh,
it wouldn't be the same poem.
It also wouldn't have expressed the way she feels about getting her period at inconvenient moments.
Yeah.
She
Also,
feels somewhat as these older women feel about the young, beautiful women flaunting themselves.
Yeah.
yeah, and also a hussy to me connotes an interloper, something coming into your life that you don't particularly welcome,
Mhm.
and it's kind of painful when it comes. But now that it's gone, you think back and wasn't it beautiful? Wasn't she beautiful?
I mean,
You know, I mean,
I love the way that characterizes the grandmas too. You just
yeah,
imagine these two old women sitting there in their rocking chairs and they're thinking back on when Charlene would blow through town with her little red short dress on, and raise a lot of trouble and make all the men uncomfortable and run off with somebody's husband. And then she'd leave. And then where did that beautiful bright red flame go? Wasn't
yeah,
she beautiful?
Yeah.
Wasn't she beautiful? I love this poem. I mean,
yeah. I do too.
Yeah.
you know? Well, goodness. Well, girl, goodbye. Okay, let's move on, see what's next. Now, this is a sad one. I said that she had many health problems. 1994. I was leaving my 58th year when a thumb of ice stamped itself hard near my heart. You have your own story. You know about the fears, the tears, the scar of disbelief. You know the saddest lies are the ones we tell ourselves. You know how dangerous it is to be born with breasts. You know how dangerous it is to wear dark skin. I was leaving my 58th year when I woke into the winter of a cold and mortal body, thin icicles hanging off the one mad nipple weeping. Have we not been good children? Did we not inherit the earth? But you must know all about this from your own shivering life. So, breast cancer poem, which of course is, you know how dangerous it is to wear dark skin. It's like people of color have a higher incidence of breast cancer and also of untreated or badly treated breast cancer because of difficulty of access to good health care. You know how dangerous it is to be born with breasts. And she writes there again about this. She had a lot of health problems, different kinds of ailments and cancer. So trying to confront this fear, a thumb of ice stamped itself hard near my heart. And then reaching out to all of us too. You have your own story. You know, the saddest lies are the ones we tell ourselves. Oh, everything's okay. Nothing to worry about. I'm fine. I'm fine. You know how dangerous it is to be born with breasts, you know? And then I was leaving this summary. I was leaving my 58th year when I woke into the winter of a cold and mortal body. So she lived, almost 20 more years, but they were not easy ones.
And,
Yeah.
one thing about these poems, I know she's writing about Black experience as well as women's experience. But when I'm reading them, a lot of the time I forget that
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because it's such I was exactly that age when I got breast cancer. And that's a pretty good description of
About,
my experience, with the exception that I got better medical care, probably,
yeah,
because of white privilege and being married to a doctor who was a cancer doctor. But
that
um,
helps.
yeah, that does help. But it's just, you know, especially these ones about womanhood, not so much about, having your father sexually abuse you or any of those. But a lot of these, I just sort of um, I relate to strongly enough that I the the women part rather than the Black part is very close connection.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And the mournfulness of, have we not been good children? Did we not inherit the earth? It's like, how could this be happening? What's fair about this? You know?
I don't know the statistics, but being a black woman, I mean, the essential thing with cancer of any kind, but particularly breast cancer, is early detection. And you're
Hmm.
not going to get detected early unless you have continual health care. And
Hmm.
if you're poor, you don't have health insurance and you don't have access to medical care, and it may not be part of your culture that much to continually get checked.
Hmm.
And so I imagine the incidence has to be a lot higher among black women, especially poor black women. And she makes no point of that. And, I
Hmm.
mean, a little bit. It couldn't be any milder.
Hmm.
Well, there's also the environmental factor that the American Cancer Society
Yeah.
doesn't say a word about. And that would also tend to affect poor people more than people
Sure.
in, comfortable
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah. But of course, Lucille Clifton wasn't poor and she did have access to good health care, but
But she
still,
was poor when she was growing
yeah,
up,
but
and she
this,
grew up in an industrial city. So,
yeah,
the
sure.
results, it isn't only a matter of what's your situation at the exact moment.
No, no, I know. Yeah.
So
Well,
I just looked it up. It's sort of astonishing. Black women in the US have a 41% higher breast cancer mortality rate
Wow.
than white
ooh,
women
Oh,
and a lower 5-year relative survival rate.
ooh,
Um, and it's driven by higher rates of aggressive tumor subtypes like triple negative, later stage detection, and inequalities in treatment. But I agree with you, Peter. It's also, did you guys see the glyphosate information that that went before the Supreme Court
I heard
about
about it. It's
about
terrible.
Roundup? They
It,
made this thing about Roundup. It can't be responsible for the cancer this guy got. And on NPR, they had doctors who were saying this is a cover up,
Yeah.
just exactly like they did for smoking causing cancer. And so I looked on this list of, well, where does this show up? Number one, Cheerios. Cheerios and
Roundup?
peanut Cheerios have the highest amount of this chemical of any food that we get.
Good God. And that's what you feed babies.
And
Good.
oh
right.
yeah.
And all the Nature Valley granola bars were also on the list.
Jeez, God almighty.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, Cheerios, that is the
Yeah,
safest thing to feed babies.
I know.
I know. I know.
Yeah,
So
Oh,
yeah,
God.
there's a lot of
yeah,
environmental stuff and a lot of um, Black people and people of color, period, live in food deserts, as they
Sure.
call it, where
Yeah, sure.
they only have access to maybe what's at the 7-Eleven, and so they eat a lot of junk food and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
sure.
And that's what's going to have all
yeah,
this.
Mississippi is full of food deserts,
yeah.
full of food deserts.
we have a friend who's a chemist who 20 or 25 years ago was working on Roundup. And I said something to her about it, and she defended it at that time. Not that I had all that much information, and she decided on her own very shortly afterward to quit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
Not
I
because of what I said, because of what she found out.
yeah. It's just
yeah.
shocking.
I'm going to come back to the poem for a minute. I
Yeah.
I um I love the way she captures that moment. That sense of the ice and the waking up into that cold and mortal body, the recognition, all of these things she captures, so she gets that moment so well. When suddenly we get diagnosed with fill in the blanks, or maybe we could have something, and we sense that, you know, we're getting on, and we you can see that moment of the ice that
Hmm.
grabs you. And I think she does it wonderful. I this is a very, very powerful poem
Yeah, it
to
really
me.
is. And there's a kind of tough compassion in it reaching out to us too. It's not just me, but you have your own story. And indeed, one does have one's own story, about the fears, the tears, the scar of disbelief. Yeah, it's a powerful, beautiful poem. Well, let's move on because this is our very last day to talk about Lucille, and I do want to get a little bit further. In fact, I want to get poem to my uterus. You, uterus, you've been patient as a sock while I have slippered into you, my dead and living children. Now they want to cut you out. Stocking I will not need where I am going. Where am I going, old girl, without you? Uterus, my bloody print, my estrogen kitchen, my black bag of desire. Where can I go barefoot without you? Where can you go without me? So, another health thing. I taught when I was teaching at Parchman, the first time I was teaching there, I was teaching poetry and I gave them a bunch of Lucille Clifton poems and they adored these poems. They just loved them. All these incarcerated men, they just thought they were like the best, you know? It's like kind of fell in love with Lucille.
They missed women.
They missed women. Yeah. So let's scoot on down, okay? Because I mean, I'm feeling the crunch of time. Oh, so yeah, I'm gonna skip the fox stories, but this is a powerful series, and the fox becomes a kind of totem animal for her. The fox is a truth teller. The fox is feral. The fox has terrible poetry to tell. This is a beautiful one. Song at Midnight. Brothers.
And and
Yeah, go ahead.
before you go ahead, you feel this pressure of time, but it just occurred to me. Are you going to be here next Tuesday, or is there some reason you're
Yeah, I'll be
not?
here.
Okay, because what we haven't done is maybe just discuss all of the poets and
I'd love to do that. I'd
have a
love to.
roundup kind of thing instead of just. And so
Sure.
maybe if you don't finish today, that's okay, and then we can discuss poetry in general and not just cut you off so
Okay. I think
abruptly.
that's nice. If that's okay with everybody, that would feel good.
Yeah.
Sure.
My calendar for a minute, honey. Just make sure I'm here. Okay, then let's go back up and look quickly at the Fox poems because it's a pretty interesting series. And the Fox is a new character. These are kind of later poems. Um, and these are poems written during, the last 20 years of her life when there was a lot of um, suffering as a widow, some loneliness, but also this creation of this kind of alter ego, the muse figure, the fox, a dream of foxes, fox. Who can blame her? Who can blame her for hunkering into the doorwells at night? The only blaze in the dark, the brush of her hopeful tail, the only starlight, her little beard teeth. And when she is not satisfied, who can blame her for refusing to leave? Master of the hunt, why am I not feeding, not being fed? The coming of fox. One evening, I returned to a red fox hunched by my door. I am afraid, although she knows no enemy comes here. Next night again, then next, she sits in her safe shadow, silent as my skin bleeds into long, bright flags of fur. Dear fox, it is not my habit to squat in the hungry desert, fingering stones, begging them to heal. Not me, but the dry mornings and bitter nights. It is not your habit to watch. None of this is ours, Sister Fox. Tell yourself that any time now we will rise and walk away from somebody else's life. Anytime, leaving Fox. So many fuckless days and nights. Only the solitary fox watching my window light barks her compassion. I move away from her eyes, from the pitying brush of her tail to a new place and check for signs. So far, I am the only animal. I will keep the door unlocked until something human comes. 1 year later, what if then, entering my room, brushing against the shadows, lapping them into rust, her soft paw extended, she had called me out? What if then I had reared up baying and followed her off into vixen country? What then of the moon, the room, the bed, the poetry of regret? A dream of foxes. In the dream of foxes, there is a field and a procession of women clean as good children. No hollow in the world surrounded by dogs, no fur clumped body on the ground. Only a lovely time of honest women stepping without fear or guilt or shame, safe through the generous fields. So I don't have like brilliant comments to say about this series. I think it's obviously a poem, a series written, in real loneliness, in real grief, but also a determination not to just sort of engage in self-pity. And then an imagining of this beautiful, dangerous, feral creature. She says in the poem that we didn't look at, that the fox has dangerous poems that she could tell, you know? Um, so I wonder if anybody else has things to say about this.
I have a question, Anne. The
Yeah,
word bloody, you read as body. Is it bloody or body?
where?
It's
Which
in the scroll down, Tony, toward the end. No clumped body, you said. The text says
No,
bloody.
it's bloody. No fur clumped bloody on the ground.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Douglas, thoughts on this? Yeah.
Yeah, we have foxes around here quite a bit, and it's really magical to hear them barking in the middle of the night. And the other thing I thought of was Kurosawa has a set of vignette movies, and one of the first ones in the set, called Dreams, is about the fox wedding,
Oh,
and this sort of perilous thing that this young boy sneaks into after being warned by his mother, he sneaks into the forest and sees the fox wedding procession, and he's banished because he's seen this forbidden thing. So it's a dangerous thing to see the fox wedding.
wow. That's
In Japan, they don't have werewolves, but they do have were-foxes.
Exact, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think she's more and more aware as her writing career goes on of, as she says, the dangerous stories she could tell, you know, um, and of this kind of unflinching determination to tell them. I mean, the poems, some of them are really grim, really angry. Let's go forward and we'll see a few of them. I think they're coming up pretty soon. Well, I read you Song. No, okay, Song at Midnight. Did I read you?
No.
No. I mean, this is touching. Brothers, this big woman carries much sweetness in the folds of her flesh. Her hair is white with wonderful. She is rounder than the moon and far more faithful. Brothers, who will hold her? Who will find her beautiful if you do not? Oh, God, that poem makes me cry. You know?
I just think that she has such self-awareness, physical awareness of herself that pervades these poems. Not pervades,
Yeah.
whatever, the word I mean to say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
courage.
And courage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this poem breaks so many taboos: size, age. Old women are not supposed to feel desire. Fat women are not supposed to be considered beautiful, This big woman carries much sweetness. I mean, it's just so beautiful. And then twice repeating, brothers, brothers, you know. Her hair is white with wonderful. Yeah. She was very round. She was very, very round. Even as a young woman, she was round. But then as an older woman, she was even rounder, you know. Yeah. So let's go down. Okay, now we're getting into some poems. Did I misspell Mississippi? I don't think so. We're getting into some poems about politics.
No, you just didn't capitalize it.
Oh,
She
yeah.
didn't
Okay.
capitalize it.
The Mississippi River empties into the Gulf, and the Gulf enters the sea, and so forth. None of them emptying anything, all of them carrying yesterday forever on their white tipped backs, all of them dragging forward tomorrow. It is the great circulation of the earth's body, like the blood of the gods, this river in which the past is always flowing. Every water is the same water coming round. Every day, someone is standing on the edge of this river, staring into time, whispering mistakenly, only here, only now. Bye, Leslie. Yeah. So when she came down, she talked about, didn't she talk about coming into where coming through Memphis and seeing the Mississippi River?
Probably. I don't
Yeah.
remember that specifically.
And, because of the whole association of the Mississippi River with slavery, she said it was not an easy trip to make when she came down to read at the University of Mississippi, nor was it when she came to Virginia, but she came and did a really beautiful job both times and told the story of her great grandma being shot off or shooting her baby's father off the horse and then being lynched, being hanged instead of lynched. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, and she's writing about history here, right? Every day, someone is standing on the edge of this river, staring into time, whispering mistakenly, only here, only now. But what? History never changes, history never disappears. All of them carrying yesterday forever on their white tip backs.
I had this. I'm a little surprised to hear you say that because I had this as an eco poem, and because it is actually true that the water is the same water that was here 3 billion years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that works.
That also works, and it's absolutely true. It's just that also this river in which the past is always flowing, you know? It's like you can't get rid of the past. The past
But
is
the
going
past
around.
could be 10 million years ago,
It
also
could be. It could
on the
be.
earth.
Yep.
Yeah,
I expect her Zen Buddhist husband really enjoyed this poem.
he was dead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Goodness.
He died pretty young. He died in his 50s. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what is so powerful for me is this notion of the river emptying, but it never empties anything.
Mhm.
In other words, everything is still there. It's all carried, and then again somebody staring at from the edge, thinking, "I'm only here, only now." No, you're all of time is running constantly through this, and
Mhm.
to me, it is really about the history of slavery and racism and all those things that are just not going away. They're systemic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both. It's also Tony talking about all of time itself is circular, repeating every water, the same water coming around. So let's go down a little bit more and we'll do one more and then we'll stop. Oh God, this one. I don't know if you guys know, if you remember when this happened.
Oof.
Oh, yeah.
Jasper, Texas, 1998, for Jay Bird. I am a man's head hunched in the road. I was chosen to speak by the members of my body. The arm, as it pulled away, pointed toward me. The hand opened once and was gone. Why and why and why should I call a white man brother? Who is the human in this place, the thing that is dragged or the dragger? What does my daughter say? The sun is a blister overhead. If I were alive, I could not bear it. The townsfolk sing, "We shall overcome," while hope bleeds slowly from my mouth into the dirt that covers us all. I am done with this dust. I am done. You guys remember when that happened? These two white guys thought it would be fun to drag a guy tied to their truck until his body came apart.
Yep.
just for fun. We're just having some fun with this good old boy. I mean, I remember when that happened, and I couldn't believe that somebody would do that, you know? But I mean, this poem is so moving. Why and why and why should I call it White Man Brother? And then absolute bitterness of the end. I am done with this dust. Not only meaning I'm done with my own mortal dust, I'm dead now, but also I'm done with this bullshit. I'm done with this. I'm just had it, you know? God, that poem kills me.
What happened to the two guys who were in the pickup truck? I
They
forget
were
what.
actually tried.
I don't remember.
And convicted, I
I think
think.
they were convicted. Yeah, but I mean, stuff like this goes on, you know?
Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, that's 28 years ago. Ugh,
Lynching used to be a party. People drink and cheer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. We had some poems about that.
yeah. Well, let's go back so we can see everybody. This is the last one I want to talk about today. I mean, I think this is such a beautiful poem, and it's such a, I can hardly even read it without just losing it, you know?
Yeah.
Ugh. When I was long ago, when I was teaching at the University of Laverne, I had a student who came from, he was Armenian, and he had talked about being at the border crossing into Syria. And he said the Syrian guards at the border tied a woman to two cars and drove in different directions. And he knew about that. You know, it's like what people will imagine to do is just absolutely amazing.
I just looked it up, and both those guys were executed
Good,
eventually.
There you go.
Oh,
good. Do you know what year?
Uh, 2011, Brewer was executed, and King was executed 2019.
So they got to live for
Another, it
20.
was 98. Yeah.
Got to live with the
uh,
threat,
Yeah.
It's
they were
not.
executed for that crime, not
Yeah.
for some other crime. I have to believe they're psychopaths.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't say about anything, any other crime.
I assume.
Yeah. They probably just thought they were fooling around, you know? Good. Well, guys, we ended on a grim note. We'll talk more next time, and we will, and please be thinking about what you want to say to kind of summarize things, you know, because we've come, as Lena Grove says in August, I've come a fur piece. We've come a fur piece.
Yeah.
Walt Whitman to Lucille Clifton, you know, and so be thinking about what you would like to.
From words, yeah. Walt
Okay.
Whitman and Lucille Clifton. Wow. It's quite a
Walt
journey.
Whitman, Lucille Clifton. And they actually have quite a lot in common, you know, little
Well,
details.
Ann and Peter, I can't thank you enough for all these classes. This has been phenomenal experience, and to have all your wisdom and expertise, available to us. What a joy, what a privilege. Thank you so much for
Thanks
this.
to all.
It's been
Yeah.
fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
My mom, so I was at one point when my mom was still there, I was talking to her about like, oh God, the year is going to start again. She says, you're like an old war horse. You hear the bugle and you run into the field. So, you know, this gave me a chance to run into the field. Boop, 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 I'm in the country. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne.
All
See you
right. This
guys
has
in the
been wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
See you
All
Tuesday.
right.
Take
Yeah.
care.
All
See
right.
Bye-bye.
ya.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.